Hi, I'm Celia Gaze and you are listening to the Transform podcast. I'm the founder and managing director of the Wellbeing Farm. It's a fun, unique and magical wedding and events venue based in Lancashire, and I'm also an author of Why Put a Bow Tie on a Llama? How a crazy idea can change your life and transform your business. Follow me for a weekly dose of inspiration as I cover the highs and lows of running a business and my mindset strategies to cope with entrepreneurship and my quest for personal health. Hi, it's Celia, and here we're already at episode 3 of my Transform podcast. And this week I'm focusing on a topic called how to make your business stand out. And I've had a bit of a think about this because one of the most well-known things that the Wellbeing Farm is famous for, or known for rather, famous is a little bit overkill, is our bow tie wearing llamas. And some of this is all about why did I feel the need to make my business stand out with something like bow tie wearing llamas. Well, some of this is that business is flipping tough. You know, I really have experienced a tough ride in it. And I think you only have to look at what's happening on the high street these days to see how tough trading really is. You know, we've had the demise of Jamie Oliver's chain of restaurants. We've seen so many shops go. This week, Thomas Cook, trading for 175 years, is what a nightmare for the poor employees and the customers and everything of Thomas Cook. It's been on our high streets forever. And the world is just becoming increasingly competitive. And there's more and more products, services, businesses, online services, physical products, everything. They're more and more created every day. And I feel that to survive in a competitive environment, you have got to be different. And you've got to find a way that just makes your business stand out from the crowd. A way that, I think if you imagine a flamingo in a flock of pigeons, standing out, be different and be unique. And you've got to almost use a combination of all your resources, all the things that you have, your knowledge, your personality, your life, your experiences, the things you care about. And all of these need to be kind of pulled together and processed through your personality and brought together to create your own unique way. And you need to create something that's different from everyone else's that's out there. And all this is known as your unique selling point or USP. So how on earth do you go about doing this? And where on earth do you start? And how do you find your sort of distinctive place in the world or your USP? Well, first of all, I think it is important that everyone, even if you think your business is the same as everyone else's, it isn't, because everyone has their own story, and everyone, the way they set their business up and the way they market and the way they do their business is different, is unique. And I think it's about how you tell your story. And I'll be honest with you, that's why I wrote my book, Why Put a Bow Tie on a Llama, because and in episode 2, I talked about the kind of hero's journey framework that I talk through and how you can use this to tell your story. And, it makes your story is you. You are unique. There's not another person. Okay, there may be another similar business. There may be something similar to you. There may be a similar service, but they may have set it up very, very differently. It wasn't you. And so people want to connect with you, and no one has the same story as you. I didn't want to be some sort of faceless venue. And I wanted to stand out. And that, I'll be honest with you, is why I wrote the story. I don't know of many other venues apart from, say, the Savoy or what, or the Ritz that has a story about their business. What is the story? I wanted to be the venue with a story. And you know, going back to episode 2, you can use that heroes framework to break it down to tell you how you can tell how the story of how you created your business, how you're different, how you stand out, the dramas and the struggles you've had. And it makes people want to connect with you because no one else has that story. You know, I was very important that you know, my story is, you know, transforming this neglected farm into the Wellbeing farm. It wasn't easy. You know, I didn't just buy a franchise and start trading. You know, I created this farm from scratch, you know, being rejected by a number of banks for funding. I thought the council would be desperate for me to transform this farm, and how wrong was I? You know, I've got rejection from planning permission, struggles and tribunals with business rates. You know, I had to search for grant funding and apply it, and I'd never done any of this before. Had to find an architect. I'd never done a house extension, let alone create a venue, figure out the heating, the lighting, the electricity. You know, you don't just go to a shop and buy a wind turbine. You know, you've got to research them and test them. And, you know, I'd never overseen a building project, and I didn't realise that can you just do this would carry a price tag. Call me naive, but, you know, and then when you've got to recruit the venue, you have to recruit the staff and find customers. So what I'm trying to say is there is a huge amount of stories in my journey, which is why I'm on the book and I'm on this podcast. But you know, the stories is what people love you, and you've got to find the stories in your business, find the things that happen. And I'm sure you might think, well, nothing's ever happened. There will be things you can dig out. There will be things that start making you unique. You know, what are your passions? What do you absolutely love? What can you think? You know, what do your customers love about you? You know, what is the industry trend at the moment? Can you pull that out? You know, you've got to start digging around for all sorts of things that will make you stand out. You know, and this is all part of doing your research. You know, you've got to see what's out there. When I created the Wellbeing farm, or transformed it, I didn't just go and start transforming it. I went out, grabbed my little boy, and went out and drove or visited or whatever to 195 venues. I got their brochure. I was there with my phone taking secret photographs. I was getting their research. I was getting onto their websites. I was finding out what they were on. I was subscribing to their mailing list. I was checking out the social media. I wanted to see exactly what they were doing. And I came to realise that a lot of these venues were the same. You know, I wanted to create something different, and I was like, well, how on earth am I going to create a business that stands out, something that's going to be totally different to anything else that is out there? And I, at the time, had gone through this awful stress, and it was just a pure like, well, at the you know, Wellbeing was starting to become known, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. But I just thought, could I take you know, I was in the NHS, and there was this, we were talking about this 5 ways to wellbeing concept, and I thought, could I take those 5 ways to wellbeing and apply those ways to a venue to make me stand out? You know, so I took those 5 principles, and the principles are, the number 1 is connect. You know, connect with the people around you, your friends, colleagues, neighbours at home, in your community. And I did this by thought, well, if I took the connect concept, I could create places where people could connect. I could create venue where we do events. I could create a cafe. I could do all these different things that in some places would bring people together and be able to connect and be able to learn and share experiences. And that's why I did courses and all different things like that. The other second 5 ways is to be active, you know, go for a walk or a run or dance or garden. And I was, you know, I at the time had these stables, and I thought, what on earth do I do with these stables? And I needed an animal to be able to, that, I'll be honest with you, wouldn't take a lot of work and would survive the winters, and basically was a bit different. And when I looked and researched and everything, I came up with the llama. Now, no one had heard of llamas, but part of this, I was like, well, what can I do with a llama? Well, I know I could do llama trekking. That's a way of being active. I could get people to come up and walk the llamas around the farm. And that's how I came up with llamas, because it was about research. It was looking and thinking differently and thinking out of the box. It wasn't following other people and what they were supposed to do. It was being creative, doing research. When I look at my venue, I don't just look at weddings now, that what's going on in England or the Northwest or Bolton. I look for what's happening in New Zealand. Such exciting stuff there. I look what's going on in America. I look at the trends abroad and what's happening in a much, much wider spectrum. I don't look at kind of what's going on in the wedding market. I look at other events. I look at things that are happening in private businesses. I look at marketing techniques that other companies are doing that are really kind of innovative and different. And that's what you have to constantly keep doing. You have to get yourself out there, constantly research what your customers are doing, and just seek to all the time go, how can I stand out? How can I be different? How can I be that pigeon, be the flamingo against in a flock of pigeons? Sorry, how can I be the flamingo in a flock of pigeons? How can I stand out and be bold and be different? And again, the take notice was, the third principle in the 5 ways to wellbeing was like, take notice, be observant, look for something beautiful, remarkable, something unusual. Well, I took that concept to go, well, actually, why don't we give back to the environment? Why don't I create this sort of sustainable business? I didn't know how on earth I was going to heat or power or whatever the business at the time. But having done it again, more market research, more looking around, more looking at ideas. I didn't just want to put an electricity thing. I wanted to create something different. What is your ultimate sign of sustainability in a green business? Is a wind turbine. Do you think it was easy for me to go out and find a wind turbine? You don't just go to a shop and buy one. I can tell you that. It's a massive resource. It's an expensive resource. Yeah, I had to put a plan together for the turbine, research all different types of turbines, all these things. Again, it was about that standing out, be different. Early on, we went and I took the sustainability, the green business, a real concept, and it drove everything that we did, from the materials that we chose to develop and build the farm, to the employment of local people, to the using of local food, to the sourcing of kind of quirky animal themed drinks and wines. Everything had to make us be different. I didn't want to be the sort of venue that just brings you food on a plate. And I know that might sound really crazy, like what you eat, what do you eat on? Well, we serve feasts. We don't just have a plate served in front of you. You don't just get one type of meat. We want massive feasts, Henry VIII style. Everybody dive in, make the food the centre, colourful dishes all the way down the table. Make it make it vibrant, healthy, really fantastic to look at, great quality. And, I could have just gone out and served chicken in a Parma ham with a bit of a sauce, and people come round and serve you veg like every other venue. But no, you have to be different. You have to stand out. You have to go and look at what's out there, what's different, what's unique, what is the cutting edge of industry doing in your field, and flipping go and either copy them or develop something else. And I must say, at the time, nobody was doing bow tie wearing llamas, because I didn't copy anybody. The fourth thing is, which really does underpin all this, keep learning. Now, I said, well, what am I going to do about keep learning? How am I going to apply that to my venue? So obviously I developed a cookery school with Whitehead's Butchers, which is my family business. I said we could run butchery courses. That went into running craft courses, lifestyle courses, healthy courses, all sorts of things. I, for one, have never stopped learning. Absolutely. I'm a learnaholic, if there is a phrase. I am absolutely obsessed. I just love learning, reading, developing myself. I have withdrawal symptoms if I'm not on a course or something, or in a book or whatever. I have to constantly learning. Now, I'm a little bit very, very over the top with all of that, I'll be honest. And it's something that I've had to address, because I can get overwhelmed with the amount of learning and the amount of things that I have on board. But the point is, you've got to kind of keep looking out there. And if you don't know it, learn it. There's no, honestly, I get sent this email each week with free learning resources covering literally an A to Z of different things you can learn for free. There is no excuse that if you don't know something or if you don't know how to do something, there's no excuse for you not to learn and find out. And especially when I started this off, I don't know if I had Google. Did Google exist 10 years ago? I don't know. Anyway, and the final thing is, the fifth one is give. I went out to make sure, that went from giving back to the environment to offering a really, really amazing customer service. When I went out to set this business up, I didn't just, a lot of venues did one, or wedding venues rather, did one planning meeting with the couples. I was like, we can't just do one, we have to do three. The prop shed, for example, why couldn't I just hire the farm, just hire it and just let people come along and bring the catering and whatever? No, because I was like, how can I apply the concept of well-being to a wedding business? Well, with weddings, when you're getting married, it's all about stress and overwhelm. You become time poor, you get anxious, you get worked up. It is a lot to do. There is a lot of plan. If you're not from a kind of project management sort of planning background, if you've never worked in events or done, and you've never planned a wedding, it's an awful lot of things to do. But I was like, well, how can we make it really easy for couples? How can we help them? How can we help them manage the stress? How can we prevent them from getting overwhelmed? So, I was like, well, we need to provide at least 3 planning meetings. The first one at 6 months, come and see all the props. Why do they have to hire props in? Why can't we just have this big kind of stash of like an Aladdin's cave that they just come in and pick off the shelves and basically use that to decorate the venue, and then anything else they can hire in? But the basics are there. So we set that up. Why do they just have to have one planning meeting? Why have 3? So at 6 months they come in and look at the prop shed and everything. At 3 months they choose their food, and we meet with them 2 weeks before their wedding. And that 2 weeks before is to actually just tick everything off. Are you all right? You're not getting stressed. Everything is done. In fact, I've even had some couples go on holiday 2 weeks before the wedding because everything's done. It's a great process. And in between then I was like, well, how else can we help them? Well, let's give them a secret website. So everything, when they book, they get a comprehensive pack and this secret website full of all sorts of helpful materials, everything they need to plan their wedding, from so many checklists to resources to contacts to supplier lists to transport lists to accommodation. Everything is there. And again, that's about thinking about your customer and how can you go out of your way to make that customer experience the best it could possibly be. And then we also give them like a secret Facebook group, because recognizing that support can come from another person, we provided this sort of we have a lot of people trying to get in our secret Facebook group, and some of them, I can tell you, are actually not married at the farm and they try and get in. So we have to vet everybody who comes in. It's quite a lot of work actually, because you get a lot of people who are applying and they are trying to come in and we have to check them against the list. And then sometimes they might want their kind of chief bridesmaids and whatever joining in, and we've got to see if they're linked. And oh my goodness, it is quite a lot of work. But again, it's a source of support. We put things in that secret Facebook group that we don't put on our main Facebook page. We arrange these wedding feast experiences so they can test out things. We are open every single Wednesday night. The only thing, if a bride is stressed or a couple are stressed, they only have to wait a week. They have to wait a week so they can talk to us. They don't need an appointment. Come down on a Wednesday evening. We'll sort it out for you. We have wedding open days every month to try and make it good for the couples, giving the couples different styles, different looks for the barn. We have wedding fairs that we hold as well to help suppliers. Honestly, you have to kind of get your business and go, how else can I create this absolutely extraordinary customer service that goes with my business? And that makes you stand out from the other competitors. I'm only at point 2. I've got another 8 to go. That's right. Point number 3. You've got to obviously finding, again, this is a little bit, but you've got to kind of use your experiences and find something that's unique, makes you stand out and be different from everyone else. And for me, it was the llamas. Now, 8 years ago, people hadn't heard of llamas. They were in zoos or they were in a farm. They just weren't around, and people thought I was absolutely crazy. Honestly, I remember one of the times, even the farmers thought I was crazy. My family, who are a very, very traditional farming family, was like, what on earth are you getting llamas for? Even Stephen needed convincing about when I said I was getting llamas. He thought I'd gone absolutely mad. And I remember when I was, when you get a llama, you can't just have a llama and they just come in, because they've got to get to know yourself. You have to, before you take these llamas out, to be able to show them to the public, deal with the public. You can't just get any animal and stand it in a crowd and expect it to behave. You've got to do so much training. It took me about 2.5 years to get these llamas totally trained and to be able to withstand any scenario that could come up, from a child going in with a go-kart to any issues around loud music or whatever with the llamas. And even when we've got all this training, the llamas are there with a one-on-one handler. Every llama has a trainer with them, holding them. But the best thing was, and this is a little bit of a story, I was going down the road with these llamas, and we had to train them, and I was walking along with the llamas as though it was totally normal to walk a llama down the street, and right by me, a tractor, a big John Deere tractor, came right by me and screeched to an emergency stop, right, literally like next to the llama. And he rolled the window down or opened the door, I can't remember, and he goes, "I've been farming in this area for umpteen years, and I've never seen anything like that." And that was when, so this is aside, but the point was, when I first started this, people thought I was totally, totally crazy. And sometimes you've got to go, what is the craziest thing that I could do with my business to make it stand out? What totally left field, what could I do? And be adventurous, think about it, put your thinking on, go somewhere to think, because you can't do it at your desk, I can tell you that now. And I mean, for me, roll on 8 years, and llamas are, the fact that llamas are featured on Imperial Leather and Smarties at the moment, it was a fantastic idea, and it wasn't crazy at all. You've also got to, number 4 is to stand out, you've got to kind of get your packaging or branding or your website or your Facebook page or your whatever, and make that unique. You've got to get your branding stand. So once you've got your idea, you've got to get your whole consistent branding right round your idea. So again, these llamas are featured throughout my branding. They're used in social media, they're on publications, they're on the front page of my book. We have rooms themed with llamas. We have a llama boudoir, a bar of llama. If you go in our farmhouse, you'll find so many llamas knocking around with photographs, pictures, ornaments, whatever. In fact, at Christmas I get so many llama themed gifts, it's completely crazy. And I mean, for me, our thing is, if I challenge you to look at a llama and not smile, because they've got these funny necks, they've got these teeth that just stand out, and they'll never bite you, by the way. They've got these most beautiful sort of Egyptian looking eyes and eyelashes. Oh my goodness, their eyes are amazing. A lot of makeup artists will struggle to recreate that kind of natural eye that a llama has, and I'm telling you, you've got to find something that you're just as passionate and makes you stand out, and apply it to your packaging, your marketing, your branding, every single thing that you have in your business to make it stand out. The first one is, I've talked about this, offer a service which your customers love. Find who's doing the best service in your field and set out to better that service that they offer. You've got to do things differently and deliver this extraordinary service to stand out from your competition. And I talked earlier about the levels of customer service that we go to make us stand out. And sometimes I've got to be honest that what you set out to be isn't what you become, and you've got to adapt and be flexible at where your customers want. And this is all part of your journey. When I started, I did this mammoth business plan, this War and Peace business plan, loads and loads of research, everything else. Weddings didn't even feature in my business plan. It was 2.5 years later that I suddenly went, I think I should be doing weddings with this farm. And sometimes you've got to be adaptable. You've got to be prepared to look outside the box. You've got to be flexible, adapt. And this is all about, where survival comes in and resilience and being prepared to kind of shift and change to get your business off the ground and to grow it. You've also got to, number 7 is really address your customers' pain points. Get them out there. Don't try and hide things. I mean, I know that we are on a farm and weather would be an issue. So what do? I go out, I make a point of getting really good funky umbrellas. I make a point of having a weatherproof solution. Awnings that even the llamas can stand under so people don't feel they're missing out. I buy in the middle of last summer, the summer of 2018, in the middle of summer, I was buying the ex-local authority snowplow. Who else was thinking of snowplows in the middle of the summer? But that's sometimes what you've got to do. But you've got to make sure and then put it in your marketing and address it. Address the weather. Travel is another one. Sometimes how do people get to us? Well, we're actually quite accessible from where people can be. I think there's a lot more remote venues and farms than we are. But again, make a point of putting on your marketing about taxis. We've even had a helicopter land on our field and because that's happened, we can now have a helipad. There's all sorts of. We've expanded the car park to make things, but you've got to kind of look at the pain points, look at where customers would have reservations about your business, and make sure you front these straight away immediately. I'm not going to do the point 8 was niching, but I'm going to talk about niching in the next podcast number 4, so I'm not really going to talk about that now. But again, you've got to niche down. Got to put now if you employ staff, you have to put a memorable culture in place. You've got a lot of work because people buy from people. Customer experience I've talked about is absolutely essential, and your people have got to be on board with what you're trying to recreate in your business, and this boils down to having a good culture. And our culture is very basic. This was adapted and stolen from a company called the Entrepreneurs Circle, which I've been a member of for quite some time and have been amazing and supportive in my growth as an entrepreneur. And their culture, which I adopted, is to do great work, give a shit, and don't be an arsehole. How simple could it be? But that, these are principles. Do great work, focus on doing, give a shit, care about what you do. Just don't do a faffy service. Do it properly and do great work. Deliver great work. And if people follow those 3 principles, how can you go wrong? And the final one, which I think is the most important, you've got to love and enjoy what you do. And it goes down to your team culture and morale and how you do. Because if you have to continue doing a business that you really, really don't enjoy doing, then it goes back to my first thing around you only get one life. And what is the point? Because it's going to reflect in people are going to know you don't really love it. People know you can't really be bothered. And you've got to find that bit within your field, within your market, that makes you absolutely love what you do, and you've got to try and find it. So the takeaway message out of all these points is you only get one life, and just don't waste it working in or on a business that you hate. You've got to really look to go, how can I use these principles that I've talked about to adapt and transform the business that I have into something that you love? And this is all about being yourself, being authentic, to stand out and be different. And this is how your business will stand out from others. And this is the reason I wrote a book to try. It's the reason I have a podcast to try and make my business stand out from other people and from others. But actually, what are you going to do after listening to this podcast to make your business stand out? I hope my passion for self-development and entrepreneurship will inspire you to transform your business, mindset, health, and ultimately your life. You can join my mailing list and find out more about my book and other great offers by going to www.celiagaze.com or follow me on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram. So thanks for listening, and I hope you'll tune in next week.